Imagine being a soldier in 1942, huddled in a ruined building, surrounded by the chilling Russian winter, the Battle of Stalingrad raging around you. You're in the heart of a city that's become a war zone, where every street, every building has turned into a battleground. This is the Battle of Stalingrad, one of the most brutal battles of the Second World War, where the German Wehrmacht and the Soviet Red Army clashed in a deadly struggle for control. Stalingrad, now Volgograd, was more than just a city. It was a symbol, a challenge, a line drawn in the snow by the Soviets that said no further. The battle began on August 23, 1942, when the German troops first entered the city. They were met with fierce resistance, as the Soviets were determined to defend their homeland. The fight was relentless, savage, and bloody. It was a battle fought not in open fields, but in the narrow streets of the city, in the shattered buildings, in the sewers and the rubble. There was no quarter given, no mercy shown. The city was reduced to ruins, its buildings gutted, its streets littered with the dead and the dying. The number of casualties was staggering. The estimates vary, but it's believed that nearly 2 million people, both military and civilians, lost their lives in this battle alone. Despite the massive losses, the Soviets held their ground. By February 2, 1943, the German troops were surrounded and finally surrendered. The Battle of Stalingrad marked a turning point in the war, a moment when the tide began to turn against the Nazis. The Battle of Stalingrad, a chilling testament to the horrors of war and the resilience of the human spirit. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, people can rise to the challenge, fight for their homes, their families and their ideals, and sometimes, against all odds, they can even emerge victorious. Fast forward to 1945, the heart of Germany, Berlin, a city under siege, the final stand of a crumbling regime. As the Second World War neared its end, a pivotal showdown took place in the city of Berlin. This was the Battle of Berlin, a monumental conflict that marked the final major offensive of the European theater of World War II. The battle was a desperate final stand by the German army, led by Adolf Hitler himself, who was now holed up in his bunker in Berlin. The opposing forces, the Soviet Union, were pressing in, determined to crush the last vestiges of the Third Reich. The battle began in mid-April and raged for 2 weeks, the city echoing with the sounds of artillery fire, bombs dropping, and buildings crumbling. The German forces, though outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a ferocity born of desperation, while the Soviet forces, driven by the desire for victory and retribution, pushed relentlessly forward. The human cost of this battle was staggering. Estimates suggest hundreds of thousands of German soldiers and civilians lost their lives, along with a significant number of Soviet soldiers. Yet the grim tally of casualties tells only part of the story. The city of Berlin itself was left in ruins, its grandeur reduced to rubble, its populace traumatized. The reasons for the battle were many and complex. For Hitler, it was a last-ditch effort to defend the capital of his crumbling empire. For the Soviets, it was a chance to deal a final blow to the regime that had wrought so much destruction across Europe. The Battle of Berlin had a profound impact on the end of the war. With the fall of Berlin and the death of Hitler, the German surrender soon followed. The battle also marked a shift in global power dynamics, setting the stage for the Cold War that would follow. The Battle of Berlin, the catastrophic finale of a regime that brought the world to its knees. The city's scars serve as a grim reminder of the cost of war, the horrors of tyranny, and the indomitable spirit of those who resist it. Now we move to 1993, the dusty streets of Mogadishu, Somalia, the air filled with tension and fear, a city in the grip of warlords. Fast forward from World War II to the heart of Africa in the early 90s. The Battle of Mogadishu, also known as Operation Gothic Serpent, was a United States military campaign that took place in Somalia's capital city. The mission was conceived with a noble purpose: to capture infamous Somali warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid and end the civil war that had been ravaging the country for years. However, what was supposed to be a swift operation turned into a nightmare for the US military. The plan was to infiltrate the city, capture Aidid, and get out as quickly as possible. But as we know, not all things go as planned. Despite the meticulous planning, the operation ran into trouble almost immediately. 2 Black Hawk helicopters were shot down, and what was meant to be a quick in-and-out affair turned into a grueling overnight battle. with US forces trapped and under constant fire. The battle was brutal and intense, lasting almost 15 hours. The streets of Mogadishu were a war zone, filled with gunfire, explosions, and chaos. When the dust finally settled, the casualty rate was high. 18 American soldiers lost their lives, and more than 70 were wounded. On the Somali side, the loss was staggering, with estimates of civilian and militant deaths ranging into the hundreds. The Battle of Mogadishu had a profound impact, not just on those who fought and died there, but on US foreign policy as a whole. The images of dead American soldiers being dragged through the streets of Mogadishu shook the nation. As a result, the US became more cautious about deploying troops, particularly in Africa. The Battle of Mogadishu, a stark reminder of the complexities of military intervention. The line between friend and foe can blur in the heat of battle, and even the best-laid plans can go awry when boots hit the ground. It serves as a lesson of the unpredictable nature of warfare and the high price of conflict. We travel back to 1968, the ancient city of Hue, Vietnam, a city under siege. Shifting our focus eastwards, we find ourselves in the heart of the Vietnam War, where the Battle of Hue, one of the longest and most savage conflicts of the war, unfolded. This battle, which spanned nearly a month, was part of the larger Tet Offensive, a massive coordinated assault by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces on over 100 cities and outposts in South Vietnam. The city of Hue, with its historical and cultural significance, was a strategic target. The battle's ferocity caught the South Vietnamese and American forces off guard, leading to a high number of casualties. Over the course of the battle, around 2,500 American and South Vietnamese soldiers lost their lives, along with an estimated 5,000 North Vietnamese soldiers. But the impact of this battle extended far beyond the battlefield. The sheer intensity of the fighting and the high casualty rate began to shift public opinion in the United States, leading many to question the country's involvement in the war. The Battle of Hue was a stark reminder of the horrors of war, a brutal confrontation that marked a turning point in one of the 20th century's most contentious conflicts. It served as a poignant symbol of the human cost of war and the profound impact such conflicts can have on societies and nations. The Battle of Hue, a brutal chapter in a controversial war. Finally, we arrive in 1992, the streets of Sarajevo, a city under siege, the longest city siege in modern history. The Siege of Sarajevo was a chilling display of ethnic tensions that spanned over 3 brutal years, from April 1992 to February 1996. It was a time when the city's diverse populace, composed of Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats, found themselves trapped in a perilous storm of conflict. The siege was born out of the disintegration of Yugoslavia and the subsequent Bosnian War, a grueling conflict steeped in ethnic strife. The city, once a beacon of multicultural harmony, was encircled by Serbian forces, with its citizens subjected to constant shelling and sniper fire. The toll was devastating. Over 10,000 people lost their lives, with an estimated 56% being civilians. The city's infrastructure crumbled under the relentless bombardment, transforming the vibrant cityscape into a haunting tableau of destruction. Yet, amid the ruins, the spirit of Sarajevo endured. The resilience of its people, their unwavering hope and courage, became a beacon of human tenacity. They lived, loved, and even played music amidst the rubble, refusing to let the siege define them. The Siege of Sarajevo, a stark reminder of the horrors of ethnic conflict and the resilience of cities under siege. It's a testament to the indomitable will of humanity, a story of survival against all odds, and a call for peace and understanding among diverse cultures.